Yusei Fudo versus Jack Atlas. The Stardust Dragon versus the Red Dragon Archfiend. Spoilers, in Jack and Yusei's first duel, we don't really get an outcome to the duel because it's interrupted by the Crimson Dragon. However, it is revealed that Yusei had one final play that would have garnered him the win should the duel have continued. Today, we're going to be analysing this duel to see if that was really true. But not only that, there's also a rematch to look at during the finals of the Fortune Cup. In this duel, Jack basically repeats the exact same combo he did during the first duel, as his pride dictated that he needed to finish his combo. This time, of course, he's prepared for Yusei's counterattack. However, spoilers again, Yusei is ready to counter the counter that Jack was ready to counter with. So ultimately, Yusei wins this duel. So that begs the question, had he have played differently? Could the outcome of the duel have changed? We won't know until we jump into the duels. Before the turbo duel begins, Jack gives Yusei his Stardust Dragon back, stating he no longer needs it since he's made it to the top. However, Yusei throws it back, saying he'll earn it through this duel. Now it's important to keep that in mind. Yusei has purposefully handicapped himself in this duel. I say that, but Yusei is also playing a lot of cards in this duel that counter Stardust Dragon. Keep that in mind, but for now, the turbo duel begins and Yusei goes first. He draws, and his opening hand consists of Quillbolt Hedgehog, Ghost Gardener, Speed Warrior, Harmonia Mirror, Meteor Stream, and Counterattack Beacon. Yusei summons his Quillbolt Hedgehog into defense. After this, he simply ends his turn. Well, I'm personally a bigger fan of putting the 1900 defense point monster in face down defense. I think what Yusei has done here is absolutely fine in hindsight. The reason that the Quillbolt play is better is because, well, Yusei doesn't have any level 7 Synchro monsters in his extra deck at this point in the series, or at least to the best of my knowledge, I don't think he does. I mean, if he did have Junk Archer in his extra deck, then yeah, he should have set his Ghost Gardener face down instead. But since I don't believe he has that card, the play he does now makes more sense because he'll be able to get out a level 5 Synchro on his next turn, so no problems there. And if you're wondering, why didn't he put any of those traps face down? Well, most of them work best against and with Stardust Dragon, so he's going to hold on to them until the right moment. So no misplays from me. It's Jack's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Mad Archfiend, Twin Shield Defender, Big Piece Golem, Medium Piece Golem, Dark Resonator, and Sinister Sprocket. The standby phase occurs, and both duelists receive 1 speed counter each. If you need a refresher on the rules of turbo duels, I do have a video right here you can check out if you don't know, but if you know, you know, so let's get back to the duel. Jack immediately summons his Mad Archfiend, and then enters his battle phase and attacks Quillbolt Hedgehog. Due to the effect of Mad Archfiend, it inflicts piercing battle damage. Yusei takes the first damage of the duel, and as a result of taking over 1000 damage in a single attack, he loses 1 speed counter. Jack ends his turn. It's Yusei's turn, and he draws Junk Synchron. Yusei starts by summoning his Junk Synchron. Now, since there is a tuner monster on the field, Yusei can activate his Quillbolt Hedgehog's effect in the graveyard, which lets it bring itself back to the field. However, it is banished the next time it leaves, which is right now. As with a level 3 tuner and a level 2 monster, Yusei tunes both together to synchro summon the level 5 Junk Warrior. Yusei moves into his battle phase and attacks Mad Archfiend, destroying it. Yusei ends his turn. It's back to Jack, and he draws Space Gate. Jack summons his Twin Shield Defender into defense, and then sets Space Gate face down and ends his turn. It's Yusei's turn, and he draws Defense Draw. We get a small animation error here. Yusei is shown drawing Jack's card, Space Gate. However, this is an error. He draws Defense Draw. Trust me, I promise. Yusei normal summons his Speed Warrior, and since Speed Warrior is a level 2 monster, the effect of Junk Warrior activates, which increases its attack equal to the total attack of all face-up level 2 and lower monsters that Yusei controls. Just for clarity, this effect slightly differs to the real-world version of Junk Warrior. Junk Warrior in the anime, whenever there are monsters on the field, it gets an attack boost. In the real world, it's only when it's summoned. As Yusei enters his battle phase, he activates the effect of his Speed Warrior. Since this monster was normal summoned this turn, he can double its attack until the end of the battle phase. He attacks and destroys Jack's Twin Shield Defender. However, Jack reveals that since his monster was destroyed by battle, due to its effect, it can now halve one monster's attack on the field. He halves Junk Warrior's attack. Regardless, Junk Warrior still attacks directly. Due to the damage, Jack loses a speed counter. As the battle phase comes to an end, Jack activates his face-down trap, Space Gate. Now, at the end of each of the opponent's battle phases, this card will gain 1 gate counter for every attack that the opponent declared during the battle phase. Then, during the main phase, Jack can send this card to the graveyard to special summon one monster from his hand whose level is equal to or lower than the number of gate counters that are on this card. With 2 attacks having been declared this battle phase, Space Gate gains 2 counters. Yusei sets his defense draw face down and ends his turn. It's Jack's turn, and he draws Speed Spell Speed Fusion. Since Jack has 4 speed counters, he is able to activate his Speed Spell Speed Fusion. What is Speed Spell Speed Fusion? It's just polymerization. Jack fuses his big and medium piece golems together in order to summon his multiple piece golem. Jack moves straight into his battle phase and uses multiple piece to attack Speed Warrior. Before the damage can be inflicted, Yusei activates his defense draw, which makes the damage from this battle 0, and instead, he gets to draw a new card, Sonic Chick. That's not all, however. Since the level 2 monster left the field, Junk Warrior's attack also falls. As the end of the battle phase occurs, since multiple piece golem was involved in a battle, Jack is able to return it to the extra deck, and then summon out its materials. Due to the effect of medium piece golem, since it was summoned while big piece was on the field, this means it can special summon small piece golem from his deck. However, its effects are negated. Now, in his main phase 2, Jack summons his level 3 tuner, Dark Resonator. He tunes it with his level 5 big piece golem to synchro summon his very soul, Red Dragon Archfiend. However, he's not done yet. Jack activates the effect of his Space Gate. He sends it to the grave in order to summon a level 2 or lower monster in his hand. He summons his level 1 tuner, Sinister Sprocket. Now with his level 1, level 3 and level 4 monsters, he tunes them all together to synchro summon his level 8 Stardust Dragon. Or should I say, Yusei Stardust Dragon. With no cards left in his hand, but 2 powerful Signer Dragons on his field, Jack ends his turn. And here is where a pretty damn huge misplay just occurred. Did you notice what Jack did wrong? Let's go back a bit. Jack has just summoned out his multiple piece golem. Why not also normal summon his Dark Resonator to the field and special summon the Sinister Sprocket to the field? Now he can enter his battle phase and attack Speed Warrior with Dark Resonator. This will deal 400 damage. After the battle, Junk Warrior will be weakened. He can then attack Junk Warrior with multiple piece golem. Yusei will take another 300 damage. Sinister Sprocket can then attack directly for 400 more damage. Keep in mind that Yusei does have that defense draw face down. Would he activate it to negate 400 or 300 damage? It's hard to say because obviously drawing a card is great, but it's such little damage. Would he activate this card during this battle? With all that done, Jack then moves into his regular play. He gets out his 2 Signer Dragons, and now Yusei has absolutely no field at all, and even less life points. Had he done this, depending on whether or not Yusei used his defense draw, this would have meant that Jack could have won on his next turn, as Yusei would have been unable to tank the attack from a direct Stardust Dragon. So from what it seems, yes, had Jack played this turn slightly differently, he could have won on his next turn. Depending if Yusei held on to the defense draw, of course. Oh, and this is important to bring up. Red Dragon Archfiend has the effect that during Jack's end phases, he must destroy all other monsters he controls that do not declare attacks during that turn. So your question might be, why wasn't Stardust Dragon destroyed during the end of this turn? Well, that's because in the anime, Red Dragon Archfiend has a little bit of an extra effect added on. And that is that it has the stipulation that any monsters summoned after the battle phase are excluded from this effect for that turn. So, no shenanigans here. It's back to Yusei, and he draws Shield Warrior. Yusei, with little options, summons his Shield Warrior into defense and switches Junk Warrior into defense as well. He sets his Harmonia Mirror face down and ends his turn. It's Jack's turn, and he draws Synchro Deflector. Jack moves straight into his battle phase and uses Red Dragon Archfiend to attack and destroy Junk Warrior. Since a defense position monster was destroyed by Red Dragon Archfiend, all other defense position monsters on the field are also destroyed. With Yusei's field completely wiped out, Stardust Dragon attacks Yusei directly. Aside from the damage, Yusei also loses 2 speed counters. Jack ends his turn. It's Yusei's turn, and he draws Remote Revenge. Yusei summons his Sonic Chick into defense and sets Remote Revenge face down and ends his turn. It's Jack's turn, and he draws Prideful Roar. Moving straight into his battle phase, Jack attacks with Red Dragon Archfiend, attempting to destroy Sonic Chick. However, the effect of Sonic Chick prevents it from being destroyed by battle, specifically by a monster with more than 1900 attack. Despite this effect, however, Red Dragon Archfiend's effect still activates. Since he attacked a defense monster, all defense monsters are destroyed via effect. However, when this effect activates, Yusei chains his Remote Revenge. Since an effect was activated that would destroy a card, Remote Revenge now negates that effect and instead destroys all attack position monsters the opponent controls. Not wanting to lose his entire field, Jack activates Stardust Dragon's effect. By tributing itself, it can negate an effect that would destroy a card. Knowing for a fact that Yusei would be hyper aware of Stardust Dragon's effect makes Jack suspicious. Regardless, he sets his Synchro Deflector and Prideful Roar face down, and as he's about to end his turn, Yusei springs his trap. You see, during the end phase of a turn that Stardust Dragon used its effect, it brings itself back to the field. As Stardust does this, Yusei chains his Harmonia Mirror, which can only be activated when an opponent special summons a Synchro monster, except by Synchro Summon. When that criteria is met, Yusei can take control of that monster. And so, Yusei regains ownership of his ace monster, Stardust Dragon. Jack's turn comes to an end. It's Yusei's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Speed Spell Silver Contrails. As Yusei has 5 speed counters, he's able to activate his speed spell Silver Contrails, which lets him boost the attack of a wind monster he controls by 1000 until the end of the turn. Yusei, now with a boosted Stardust, attempts to attack and destroy Jack's Red Dragon Archfiend. However, as the two Signer Dragons clash, both duelists' Signer marks begin to pulse. Ignoring this, Jack activates his Synchro Deflector. Since his Synchro monster was attacked, he can negate the attack and destroy a monster Yusei controls with the lowest attack. Sonic Chick is destroyed as a result of the effects. Yusei ends his battle phase. He ends his turn by summoning his Ghost Gardener into defense and setting his counterattack Beacon and Meteor Stream traps face down. It's Jack's turn, and the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets Speed Spell End of the Storm. Jack moves into his battle phase and attacks Stardust Dragon. Yusei, however, activates his Ghost Gardener's effect, which shifts the attack to it instead. Since Ghost Gardener is destroyed by battle, it decreases the attack of the monster that destroyed it by 1000 until the end of the turn. Yusei, wanting to capitalize on the weakened Red Dragon Archfiend, chains his trap counterattack Beacon, which makes it so that after one of his monsters is destroyed, lets him boost a monster he controls by 500 and then force it to battle the opponent's monster. Yet again, with the two Signers battling, the Signer marks pulse. Unfazed, Jack activates his face down trap, Prideful Roar. By paying life points equal to the difference in attack, he is able to increase his monster's attack equal to that difference, and then gain an extra 300 attack on top. Since the difference is 1000, Jack pays 1000 life points. Now, with enough attack, it looks like Stardust Dragon is about to be destroyed. However, Yusei banishes his Shield Warrior in his grave. This prevents Stardust Dragon from being destroyed in battle. Yusei still takes the damage, of course, but Stardust Dragon remains on the field. At this point, the Crimson Dragon fully appears, and both duelists' eyes begin to glow red. Jack, wanting to end the duel right now, activates his speed spell, End of the Storm. End of the Storm makes it so that it can only be activated when a player has 10 or more speed counters. This card destroys all monsters on the field, and then for each monster destroyed, that monster's controller takes 300 points of damage. If this card resolves, Jack will win the duel. Yusei is shown to activate a card. However, the duel is interrupted due to the Crimson Dragon, and both duelists' duel runners malfunction. The duel ends with no outcome. So, how is the duel about to end? Well, it's weird, but Jack should have known that his spell wouldn't have worked against Yusei because, well, he's got Stardust Dragon on the field. Yusei could have just tributed it to negate the effect. The question after that becomes, well, what side of the field would Stardust come back to during the end phase? Well, in the real world, Stardust Dragon would have gone back to Jack's field, whereas in the anime, most likely it would have gone back to Yusei's field, as typically in the anime, once you take control of a monster, sometimes it just becomes yours then. If we're following dual monster rules anyway. But none of that matters, because whatever side of the field that Stardust Dragon came back to would still have resulted in Jack's loss, as the criteria for Yusei's set trap, Meteor Stream, had been met. Its effect was when a monster is special summoned during the turn it was sent from the field to the graveyard as a tribute, you can inflict 1000 damage to the opponent. With Jack only having 900 life points left, that would have meant as soon as Jack's turn ended, he would have lost the duel. Weirdly enough, if he hadn't have activated the End of the Storm, then he probably would have survived for another turn, and possibly might have been able to make a counterattack. To be fair to both duelists, I don't think Jack was thinking straight with all the stuff that was going on. It was getting more and more ramped up, the Crimson Dragon appearing, wind, everything, so I can understand playing under the timer, you start making some misplays. It's understandable. I think Yusei kept his cool, and he deservedly got the win in this duel, even though, as we discovered a little bit earlier, yes, Jack could have won if he played a little bit different. Also, with Jack not activating End of the Storm, he would have had to have known what Yusei had face down, which he couldn't have, so no misplay from him. But that's the taster duel done. Let's take a look at the Fortune Cup finals. The Fortune Cup title Turbo Duel begins, and Yusei goes first. He draws, and his opening hand consists of Shield Wing, Junk Synchron, Descending Lost Star, Speed Spell Silver Contrails, Shining Silver Force, and Synchro Blast. Yusei summons his Shield Wing to the field into defense, and then sets Synchro Blast and Descending Lost Star face down, and ends his turn. It's Jack's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Twin Sword Marauder, Dark Tinker, Spell Speed Overboost, Spell Speed End of the Storm, Powerful Rebirth, and Tuner's Mind. Jack summons his Twin Sword Marauder to the field and moves straight into his battle phase. He attacks Shield Wing. Due to Shield Wing's effect, it is not destroyed by battle twice per turn. So, while it's not destroyed by Jack's attack, due to the effect of Twin Swords, it still inflicts piercing battle damage. Yusei takes the first damage of the duel. However, Jack isn't done. Twin Sword has the additional effect that when it attacks a defense position monster, it can attack again in a row. And so, Yusei yet again takes more damage. Jack sets his powerful Rebirth face down and ends his turn. It's Yusei's turn, and he draws Meteor Storm. As a reminder, Meteor Storm, this is the card that would have won him the duel in their last duel. Yusei summons his Junk Synchron and tunes it with his Shield Wing to Synchro summon his Junk Warrior. Junk Warrior attacks and destroys Twin Sword Marauder. After the attack, Yusei activates his continuous trap, Synchro Blast, which, for as long as it remains on the field, will inflict an additional 500 damage to Jack whenever Yusei's Synchro monsters declare an attack. Yusei ends his turn. It's Jack's turn, and he draws Tuner Capture. Jack summons his Dark Tinker to the field, and then activates his set powerful rebirth to bring back his twin sword Marauder, along with a level increase of 1. Jack tunes his now level 5 twin sword with his level 3 tuner to synchro summon his Red Dragon Archfiend. Due to Dark Tinker being sent from the field to the graveyard, Jack is allowed to draw 1 new card. He gets Fiend Cannon. Jack moves into his battle phase and attacks and destroys Junk Warrior. He ends his turn by setting 3 cards face down: Tuner Capture, Tuner's Mind, and Fiend Cannon. It's back to Yusei, and he draws Hyper Synchron. Yusei activates his set Descending Lost Star, which lets him bring back his Junk Warrior in defense. However, its effects are negated, its defense becomes 0, and it loses a level. This is perfect for Yusei, however, as he summons his Hyper Synchron and then tunes the 2 level 4 monsters together to synchro summon his Stardust Dragon. Due to Hyper Synchron being used for a synchro summon, Stardust Dragon gains an additional 800 attack, and is now incapable of being destroyed by battle. However, since Yusei synchro summoned, Jack is able to activate his Tuner Capture, which summons the tuner monster that Yusei used for that summon to his field into defense. Yusei attacks Red Dragon Archfiend, attempting to destroy it. However, Jack activates his second trap, Tuner's Mind. This returns his synchro monster back to the extra deck and then summons its materials to the field. Since the number of monsters on the field has changed, a replay occurs. Yusei plans to attack Twin Sword Marauder. However, due to Tuner Mind's effect, it forces Yusei to attack the tuner summoned instead. And so, Stardust attacks Dark Tinker. It is destroyed. Since Yusei attacked with a synchro monster, Synchro Blast deals 500 damage. But not only that, but since Dark Tinker went to the grave, Jack gets to draw another card again. He gets Sneak Exploder. Yusei ends his turn. It's Jack's turn, and he draws Crimson Fire. Jack tunes his Twin Sword Marauder and Yusei's Hyper Synchron together to synchro summon Red Dragon Archfiend again. However, this time, due to the effect of Hyper Synchron, it gains 800 attack, and it is granted battle immunity. Red Dragon Archfiend attacks Stardust Dragon. Stardust Dragon isn't destroyed in the battle, however the damage is still dealt. Not satisfied, Jack activates his face down Fiend Cannon, which inflicts 500 extra damage to Yusei since his monster did not destroy it after battling. That's a very hyper specific card right there, and it's only 500 damage once? Okay, you might as well just play Hitomna at that point. Jack ends his turn by setting Sneak Exploder and Crimson Fire face down. At this point, the duel is transported to the stars. It's Yusei's turn, and he draws Crossline Counter. Yusei starts by activating his speed spell Silver Contrails, which increases the attack of Stardust by 1000. Stardust attacks Red Dragon Archfiend. It isn't destroyed in the battle, but the damage is still dealt. Synchro Blast then follows up with an additional 500 damage. As the battle phase ends, Silver Contrails effect also expires. Yusei sets Crossline Counter, Shining Silver Force, and Meteor Stream face down, and ends his turn. It's Jack's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets a mysterious card. The only one of the last 2 duels. What could this card be? It must have been a complete brick. It can't be a monster, and it can't be anything that you can activate or set with any value, I guess. So I wonder what this will be. I'll let you guys answer in the comment section below. What was the useless card that Jack just drew? Let me know. Jack moves straight into his battle phase and attacks Stardust Dragon. Yet again, Stardust isn't destroyed, but the damage is still dealt. Yusei follows this attack by activating his Crossline Counter, targeting Stardust Dragon. This increases Stardust's attack by twice the battle damage he just took. It then causes both monsters to attack each other again. Since this was technically Jack's attack again, Synchro Blast doesn't deal 500 damage. Jack, however, is ready to go for his final play. He activates his speed spell Overboost, which increases his speed counters by 4, putting him at 11. With over 10 speed counters, Jack activates the same card he used in their last duel, speed spell End of the Storm. This card will now destroy all monsters on the field and inflict 300 damage to each player for each one of their monsters destroyed. Obviously, Yusei activates his Stardust Dragon's effect, negating the card's effect. However, Jack came prepared. he activates his set Sneak Exploder. This continuous card can only be activated while the opponent controls no monsters. During the opponent's next standby phase, Jack can send this card to the graveyard to inflict 500 damage to the opponent for each monster he controls. Thinking he has won, Jack ends his turn. As he does, Stardust Dragon comes back to the field. Here, however, Yusei activates the card that would have won him the duel last time, Meteor Stream. This card inflicts 1000 damage to Jack since a monster returned to the field in the same turn it was tributed. This card would win Yusei the duel. However, it is here that Jack reveals he was ready for this counter, and he plays Crimson Fire. This negates the damage he would take by a card effect, and instead inflicts twice as much back to Yusei. It seems Jack is about to win. However, it is here where Yusei reveals he had a counter to counter Jack's counter, and as such he activates his last face down trap, Shining Silver Force. This card can only be activated when an opponent activates a trap card that would inflict damage. That trap is negated, and all other face-up spells and traps the opponent controls are destroyed. This play completely shuts down all of Jack's methods for victory. And with that, it is now Yusei's turn and the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets Speed Spell Final Attack. Yusei plays his Speed Spell Final Attack to double the attack of Stardust. Stardust will be destroyed during the end phase and it's unable to attack directly, but none of that really matters, as Yusei simply uses Stardust Dragon to attack Jack's Red Dragon Archfiend to drop his life points down to 0. Following the defeat, Jack falls from his bike. Yusei is declared the winner and is also crowned the new king. Two pretty awesome and pretty tight duels. I don't think there was much extra deck variety between these two duelists at this point in the series. I don't think there was that much wiggle room for ulterior plays throughout both of these duels. You'll notice that this duel was quite choreographed in the sense that both players are kind of mirroring each other's plays, just doing things in different ways kind of things. Towards the end, you can see people are drawing some hyper-specific cards to counter the hyper-specific cards that the opponent has. Classic early Yu-Gi-Oh, to be honest with you. We confirmed in the first duel that, yes, Jack could have won if he played slightly different. In terms of this duel, I think both duelists played the best possible duel they could with the cards they had. I don't think there was that much wiggle room for many ulterior plays. If you did notice anything though, please let me know in the comments. Regardless, thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and catch you later. Bye everyone.